Hey. That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
He did what?
Jackpot, baby!
Ice up, son. Ice up.
That is blasphemous.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
This segment will be getting to Maryland basketball. As mentioned before, they did take care of Penn State on Monday night, 67-61. And Penn State hasn't exactly been the best in basketball this year. They're right around the same level as Maryland record-wise. But I felt like there were a lot of, there were a lot of things to be optimistic about for Maryland coming away from that game. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of players that weren't exactly, the most, they're not exactly the most excelling this season. They weren't exactly the best or most, I don't want to say surprising, but they weren't exactly, they didn't make you, knock your socks off. And, there are a few guys that had kind of gotten on my nerves as a Maryland fan, wishing that they would have played better. You get the idea there. And one of those players was but actually, before we get to those players, I got to say, for not being too thrilled with them this season, a few players, not just these few players that I'm about to bring up, but the team as a whole, honestly played a pretty good game, albeit it was against a struggling Penn State team. But I think you take those. I think you take those wins when you can get them. I think you take those small victories, right? Take them when you can get them. And one of the players that has kind of gotten on my nerves this season, and I haven't been a huge fan of this season, is Ian Martinez. And I just feel like he tries to do too much, and I think he just needs to kind of settle down and just be himself. And I gotta say, Monday night against Penn State, I think he actually played one of his better games this season. I think he played his best game in a Maryland uniform. And sure, he only had 4 points, but it's more than just about what he brings to the box score, right? And with Ian Martinez at this point in the season, I feel like Maryland fans kind of know what they're going to get from Ian Martinez. Like, he's not going to come out and give you 20, 30 points a game, and I think everybody knows that, right? We'd be surprised if he gets 10 points. But, he kind of just comes out on a bench player, eats some time up, gives the other guys some rest, and, not exactly going to be the best, but it's a guy that can come out and give everybody else a rest. But on Monday night against Penn State, he actually came out and contributed. He actually was, pretty, I want to say, played some valuable minutes. And that was surprising. I was glad, right? I think he played his rear end off on defense. And, again, 4 points, that's fine, right? He got some points. He was able to contribute there. There was one play before the end of the first half where, usually end of the first half, it's like, okay, whatever, right? We're going to dribble the clock out. We're going to take the last shot, so on and so forth. And that'll be that. Ian Martinez was like, no. I'm not content with doing that. Penn State actually had the ball to end the first half. And then Ian Martinez goes up, steals the ball, and takes it for a layup. I believe it was a layup. I don't think he dunked it, but whatever. You get the idea. And there was other times where he was hustling a lot. He was hustling his butt off on defense. And that is kind of what I think not just myself, but other Maryland fans in general were kind of waiting for and hoping for this season was, okay, when is this guy going to do something else, right? Because we know that his skill isn't there offensively. So what else can he possibly be good at? And what else can he possibly bring to the table to help this team out? Playing good on defense is always a good place to start. And as I mentioned, right, he hustled on defense, but he also got 4 steals. He was able to get some steals, and it actually showed up in the box score, or in the stat sheet. But he also had 4 assists, right? So sure, he maybe not wasn't the best scorer, wasn't the highest scorer on the team Monday night, but he was creating opportunities for others, which, hey, that's awesome, right? When you can do that, that's recognizing the fact that, hey, I don't have it offensively tonight, so I'm going to create for others. That is something that a few other players haven't done this season, which we'll get to in a little bit. But Qudus Wahab was another guy that has really gotten on my nerves just as a Maryland fan this season. Because basically, I'll give you a quick rundown of how Qudus Wahab plays basketball. So he's the center for the team, right? And so he'll get the ball passed to him. And, you know, I call him the black hole, and I don't want that to be taken the wrong way. That is not supposed to be some kind of racial joke. I mean, you understand what a black hole is, right? It is where, you know, objects get sucked into and it doesn't come back out. Well, that is the basketball for Qudus Wahab. You pass the ball into Qudus Wahab, you're never seeing that thing again. That is not coming back out. That thing is going to be down there until he shoots it or gets it stolen away from him. I mean, I think this season, he's probably passed it out of a situation that he should have, you know, less than 20% of the time. And, I mean, so basically what happens is he'll get the ball down in the paint. He'll get double-teamed, whether it's in the post or whether it's in the paint close to the basket. He'll get double-teamed, you know, not exactly having the best opportunity to go for a shot, but that doesn't faze him. He goes up for a shot anyway. It either gets blocked, he either gets fouled and then misses the free throws, and that's just kind of how he operates this season. So I call him the black hole because you pass the ball into him and the ball never comes back out. And Monday night, I felt like he was doing better at that. He was doing better at passing the ball out of bad situations, creating opportunities for others. And also, not just to mention the fact that he just couldn't, you know, he just wouldn't pass the ball. Another issue with Qudus Wahab was rebounding. Up until a certain point this season, I was convinced that Qudus Wahab had bricks for hands. Because the ball would, fall right into his lap. And he couldn't pick it up. He couldn't grab the ball. Like, it would just bounce right off of him. And I was like, all right, dude, the basketball is not that, it's not that, I don't want to say bouncy because that just seems like a weird word to use. But the ball's not that hard to grab, especially when it falls right in your lap. And, I feel like he did better at that. He may not have had the best game of his career, but he played better than what he had been doing in games prior and this season so far. He ends up with 7.7 rebounds. Xavier Green was another guy that I haven't been the biggest fan of this season, but he played his butt off on defense as well, which is always good to see. He was, I think, probably hustled the most out of anybody on Monday night. And just as I mentioned, as a whole, as a team, I felt like better decisions were being made, right? If a shot wasn't there, most of the guys weren't forcing things. There were occasionally some things where, some guys took a shot and I was scratching my head saying, well, that doesn't really, I don't know why you shot that, but okay. That's going to happen, right? No team's perfect. I get that. But I felt like Maryland wasn't forcing things a whole lot. They weren't, there was one point I feel like at the end of the first half where they had a huge lead and then they were taking a lot of bad shots in a 4 to 5 minute period, and Penn State caught back up. But I think Maryland called a timeout and got things figured out. That was good to see that in-game adjustment like that. That was something that I felt like we hadn't really seen from Maryland a whole lot this season, so that was good to see. Hakeem Hart, Fats Russell, and even Eric Ayala played well. At this point in the season, you know what you're going to get from Hakeem Hart. He's my favorite player, my favorite starter at least. He's always trying. He's always giving effort. He's always putting a good effort in, I should say. He's going to get you some points. You know what you're going to get. He's a solid player. Fats Russell, the consistency isn't totally there, but when he has a good game, he really has a good game. And he went off for 18 points Monday night, so that was good to see. And Eric Ayala, who may not be having the best season this year. And then he had the wrist injury, which he hasn't started for a few games. He played well. So that was good to see as well. He goes for 13 points. And despite only having 3 points, I did feel like Julian Reese played well also. So as I mentioned, overall, I felt like it was pretty good to see. Everybody chipped in. Everybody played well. The guys who score, they scored. The guys who don't score played really good defense. And that leads to a win. The only guy I wasn't too thrilled about was Dante Scott. And he had 12 points, but he was also 5 for 10 from the field and 0 for 2 from three-point range. And remember when I talked about how there was a point in the game where Maryland was forcing a lot of shots? Well, that was primarily Dante Scott. And so Dante Scott goes 12 points on a 5 for 10 night from the field. Fats Russell goes 18 points on a 4 from 13 night from the field. So, and Fats Russell got to the free throw line a lot more than Dante Scott did, so that always helps. But Dante Scott was forcing a lot of shots that quite honestly weren't there. He would have been much better passing it off to other guys, trying to create opportunities for others. And, you know, at this point in the year, Dante Scott is he's done that a lot. He's made a lot of decisions. He's taken a lot of shots that make you ask yourself, what was he thinking? What exactly did he think was going to happen on that shot?